This is asking us to approve the letter of invitation to initiate a partnership with the Pew-MacArthur Results First Initiative in order to implement a systematic approach to evidence-based policy in Santa Clara County. Dr. Smith, will you be speaking this item or introducing our team?
No, it's Martha Wapinski's going to start.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Martha Wapinski, Deputy County Executive. With me today, I'd like to introduce Ben Fulton from the Pew Foundation, as well as Amalia Mejia from CSAC, who are going to provide a brief overview of the Results First Initiative. With them today also is Emlyn Struthers. They're backup sitting in the audience today. So since 2013, the Pew-MacArthur Results First has been working with 4 other counties, Kern, Fresno, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz, to help policymakers make data-driven decisions. They help counties make the best use of their limited resources by targeting recidivism reduction in the adult criminal justice system. In those 4 counties, Results First has worked with partner agencies as well as the community corrections partnerships to build program inventory as well as catalog all in-custody and community-based programs offered to adult offenders. What we're asking the board today to do is consider partnership with Pew-MacArthur to conduct a cost-benefit analysis of the county's programs for adult offenders. Before they get started, I would also like to thank Maria Caballero from Probation and also Butai and Candace Nisby from the County Executive's Office for their tireless efforts in putting this together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben.
Thank you for the introduction. President Cortese and members of the board, my name is Ben Fulton. I'm a senior associate with the Pew-MacArthur Results First Initiative, really long name for what we like to call Results First. And as mentioned, I'm going to do a quick overview of our approach and the initiative, as well as turn it over to Amalia so she can talk through a few examples from the partner counties that have already been mentioned. So what is Results First? What we are is a jointly funded initiative by the Pew Charitable Trust and the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. What we are is a national project, a capacity building project, that works with select states and counties across the country to help them engage in evidence-based policymaking, which really at its core is a recognition that there's a lot of great research and evidence out there about what works, and that we can harness the power of that information to identify and invest in programs that have been proven to work and are likely to have a high return on investment. So today we're going to focus on adult criminal justice, but I do want to mention that this approach can be applied in a number of different social policy areas, including juvenile justice, child welfare, mental health, substance abuse, as well as general prevention. So all of this sounds really great about trying to invest in programs that work and using cost-benefit analysis as a way to identify which programs kind of benefits justify the cost of providing them. And strategic thinking policymakers like yourselves have really been thinking about this for a long time, and trying to think about the best ways to incorporate this. But unfortunately, the information is often not available to state and local decision makers, and that's really where Results First comes in. We want to help provide the tools, training, and technical assistance to help Santa Clara County do this work in an ongoing way. So I'm going to briefly touch on the Results First approach, which, okay, great. As I mentioned, is a capacity building approach, and it really boils down to kind of a number of different types of technical and policy assistance that we provide. So first, if you're thinking about Results First as an investment tool, any financial advisor would tell you that the first thing you need to do is get an understanding of what you're currently offering. What's your current investment strategy look like? And that's where the program inventory comes in. And that's a really powerful tool all on its own, but it also helps you conduct benefit cost analysis, as I mentioned, to consider whether the benefits of those programs outweigh the costs of providing them. And then finally, bringing all that information together and making it useful to serve the vision that you all have for Santa Clara County. So I'm going to touch on the program inventory first. And as I mentioned, I think it serves a couple important roles. First, it's an opportunity to get a snapshot of what you're currently offering to folks on supervision as well as in custody that are adult offenders, and get a sense of what the portfolio of programming you're providing looks like. But to also think about planning for the future and kind of setting the stage for benefit cost analysis. So the program inventory really begins as a list of the interventions in a given policy area, which seems really simple, but is much more challenging than that. I'm sure you appreciate that, of building that list of interventions as well as adding additional layers like budget information, capacity information, program information, and ultimately working with Results First to go to kind of the literature about effectiveness and evidence behind programs. And what that allows you to do is kind of organize your interventions on a according to the evidence. Those programs that are highly rated, expected to make a real impact on reducing recidivism, those promising kind of second highest rated programs, those programs that the evidence shows they're not effective, as well as some that the research just really hasn't caught up to yet. And so a number of our states and county partners have been able to use this information to shift resources from ineffective or negatively effective programs towards more effective evidence-based interventions, or plan for future jail facilities, or trying to design a treatment portfolio that really makes sense for their community. And so obviously that's a really useful resource that counties do not often have in front of them and available and organized in a way that policymakers can use throughout the budget and policymaking process. But it also sets the stage for benefit cost analysis. And Results First has a really kind of three-step process that the model works through in order to project the long-term benefits of a program as compared to the cost of providing them. So it really begins by using the best national research on what works and getting a level of effectiveness for the various interventions that are out there, and then combining that with Santa Clara specific fiscal and population data to get a sense for how a given intervention might play out here in Santa Clara and what the potential impact that program might have in terms of reduced recidivism, increased public safety, and better shepherding of taxpayer resources. So what that ultimately allows you to do is project a return on investment statistic for the programs that have been rigorously evaluated enough to run through the model. And so building on the program inventory here, we're really looking at, it's incredibly useful to know that you're spending $300,000 a year on vocational education, that the evidence says that it's a promising and very highly rated practice, but it's also useful to understand what the cost of putting a person through that program is, and based on the research, what the likely benefit of over the long term is of that program. And finally, that benefit to cost ratio. For every dollar invested in that program, this is based on Washington State data, they're expected to have $11 in return on investment. And that's both to the taxpayer in terms of avoided system use and cost, as well as avoided victimization, because we all know there's kind of both of those perspectives are really important to consider when you're thinking about the benefits of reducing recidivism. And so I would kind of pull that all back together in this kind of third piece. We provide the technical assistance to build those first two components, to build the program inventory, to customize the model with Santa Clara specific information. But we also come out and help you think through your results, your finding, interpret what they mean, message them to policymakers, and think about the kinds of budget and policy questions they could help you answer. And before I turn it over to Amalia to talk about some of those examples, I think it's helpful to think about the partners that I keep mentioning. And so I'm referring to the 22 states on this map that are coded in blue there, and the 4 counties out in California that were mentioned earlier. And now we have 2 brand new counties, Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, Montgomery County in Maryland, that got really excited about the work happening out here in California and just and really wanted to take this, embrace this approach. So those 4 counties in California were really the beginning of a pilot here to see if this approach could be effective at the county level, and the resounding answer has been yes, and that's why we've partnered with CSAC to expand our technical assistance efforts to other counties like Santa Clara. And so all of these different jurisdictions obviously are very unique in terms of their demographics, their economics, their political leanings, and each one of these partners has its own unique vision for how to implement this work. So the work happening in Florida is different than Illinois, than New Mexico, than New York. And so that's one thing I really think is powerful about this project, is that it will ultimately be county-driven, supported by Results First, but the way in which this is taken on and the results are considered and how they are used will ultimately be determined by the folks here in the county, which I think is really exciting. And when I say we're working with them, we're really, again, providing the tools, training, technical assistance to help Santa Clara build its capacity to do this work for itself in an ongoing way. And they've done that in a number of different ways, from shifting resources, again, from low return on investment programs to higher investment programs, trying to think about ways to incorporate this approach into standard operating procedure when thinking about how to invest in programs, as well as thinking through a number of different examples that Amalia is going to share now. So with that, I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Ben. And as Ben mentioned, we are currently in Kern County, Santa Cruz, Santa Barbara, and Fresno County. So I'll start off Kern County. So Kern County joined the Results First family in 2014. They were able to complete both the program inventory and benefit cost model within a calendar year. I think one of the great things that they have been able to do is a huge culture shift. They really moved from keeping offenders just busy in the jail to actually implementing programs. And Kern County, like many other jails in California, were not providing any evidence-based programs in their jail. Before they even completed the model, they were able to use Results First as a tool and use the Results First Clearinghouse as a menu approach to determine, to implement 5 evidence-based programs in the jail. They're actually now up to 7 evidence-based programs in the jail. Going next, we have Santa Cruz County, so your neighboring county. Santa Cruz, like other areas in California, was already implementing highly technical evidence-based programs. Where they needed help was prioritizing resources. So after completing the benefit cost model, Santa Cruz County was able to determine that their cognitive behavioral therapy program was actually producing a high return of investments, and they used that result to prioritize and continue to fund that program. Santa Barbara County was the first county to join Results First. One of the great things that Santa Barbara was able to determine once populating their benefit cost model was that one of their substance abuse program, Matrix program, even though was evidence-based and was proven to be effective, was not cost-effective for Santa Barbara County to implement. So they have since then reallocated those funds to a more cost-effective program that is still evidence-based, still effective, but is actually cost-effective for Santa Barbara, and they're now using MRT. So I think one of the greatest things about this is that you can have evidence-based programs, but it doesn't mean that, 1, they're effective, or 2, that they're cost-benefit to the county. What Results First is able to do is help you determine whether you are providing that evidence-based program. 1, is it effective? 2, are you implementing that with fidelity to project the return on investment? And 3, is that cost-effective to Santa Clara specific? So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it to Ben.
So with that, I really would like to talk really briefly about kind of when we say partnership, what do we mean? We're really talking about Results First is fully funded by the Pew Charitable Trust and the MacArthur Foundation to do this work. So we provide, again, the model itself, the templates, and the systematic approach to doing this. And we ask that the kind of political support of the jurisdiction we're working in the county space, it's the Board of Supervisors, vote to endorse this partnership, and then dedicate the staff time necessary and the willingness to consider the findings. And we've had a lot of really great conversations at the CCP with the criminal justice stakeholders, and we feel really confident that this is a really exciting and good match for both Results First and for Santa Clara County. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to you all for any questions that you might have. And thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. Members of the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Wasserman.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, President Cortese, and thank you, Martha, Ben, Amalia, for your presentation today. I find the idea, the concept, I find it fascinating. I'm very encouraged from what I've heard. I've been briefed with my chief, and what I'd like to throw out there when the time's appropriate, I don't know if we have public speakers or not, Mr. President.
None so far.
Okay, is a motion to approve and also request that you report back periodically to Public Safety and Justice. That's a committee I happen to chair. I think it's very appropriate, given all the different agencies. I see all the noddings of the head. It looks like you think it's appropriate as well. And I'm very interested to see how things start off and your feedback. I think it was very honest of you to say, you know, you do your analysis, and sometimes the program makes sense, and sometimes going in a different direction makes sense. Normally, when people are in your position, we don't hear about things that didn't work out as the hypothesis predicted. But again, you still made, I'll say, lemonades out of what you found out. So, Mr. President, with that, I'll make a motion to approve and be quiet from there.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Wasserman. You should have a motion screen up for electronic voting. We do have a motion by Supervisor Wasserman and a second by Supervisor Chavez. Further comments or discussion, members of the board? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and conclude the voting at this time. And that invitation was accepted by unanimous vote. Thank you very much.